Women who were told by their partners that they met someone else. How did you dealt with it? I had my suspicions, so I flat out asked. It hurt like hell, but I was young, and I moved on. It turned out he was really infatuated with her, and she didn't like him. He ended up alone, and tried to run back to me. Lol no. Happened to me too. We had been together for 6 years at that point, and he got a crush on a girl he met online. He took his sweet time deciding which one of us he wanted for a couple of months. I'm not proud of it, but I cried and begged him to stay with me, but alas, he left me to pursue her. Well, she didn't want him, and she got together with her ex instead, so naturally he tried to crawl back to me. I was still a mess and completely in love with him at that point, but I had decided I didn't deserve to be treated like that after 6 years, so I just lied I had moved on with someone else. My parents' story ends up just like yours. My dad cheated on my mom, had a long-term relationship, almost 10 years, with this woman. She eventually got tired of him and left him. It didn't took long until he tried to communicate with my mom and tried to invite her to dates. Of course she rejected him, as she should though. My first serious boyfriend had a thing with his ex. I was away for a work thing for a few months, and while I was away, she had visited him, still friends, and left her blog open on his computer with a declaration of how much she still loved him. He got back with her. Basically, I was a mess, honestly. Crying, asking why. He brought in a lot of minor things to justify the breakup. I straight up asked him if it was her. He denied it. I called crap. He still denied it. A week later, he was with her. Yeah, okay. Within a month, he and her broke up because guess what? They're both the same people with the same issues that broke them up the first 5 times. And then he wanted to crawl back to me. He owed me $1,000. I played the game, being friends with him. Eventually I just told his parents what happened. Overnight, my $1,000 was back. I blocked all social media immediately after. After 20 years of marriage, mine found someone else. It hurt worse than anything ever imagined. He asked for a divorce and I granted it to him. Even before the ink was dry, he begged me to come back. I refused. I moved to a different state and started over. We remained friends until he passed away 6 months ago. Still love him as a friend, but was a toxic marriage. How did you stand to be friends afterwards, let alone find the desire to be friends? My wife wanted to separate going on a month ago and said she wants to be friends. I can't imagine being just friends. Friends that are married together, sure, but not just friends. So seriously, any advice? It's not easy and not for everyone. We had a lot of issues. He was an alcoholic. He and I were always great friends, but our marriage turned into more of a friendship without the intimacy. My recommendation is to step back and take some time for yourself. Then consider it, if you want. I want to add that I have no regrets on the divorce. It still hurts how it happened. Found out he cheated. But I'm so much happier now, and found an amazing man that treats me better than anyone ever has. I found out that my ex-husband was seeing someone else. I tried for almost a year to make things work, but it didn't. He left with her. I was broken in a million pieces. But we have a son together. My conclusion was that I love my son more than I loved him. So, my goal is to make him grow in a place where he feels he has his family and that we are there for him no matter what. So, I decided I would remain friends with him. We have boundaries, but we have a very cordial relationship. I can talk to him about issues that happen at school, with money, sometimes about my projects. We help each other a lot. I wanted to set an example to my son about family and relationships. Plus I realized that the only one that would suffer would be me, because I would be just drowning in the bad feelings I felt towards my ex, and the consequences of that would be my unhappiness and my son having to deal with that, and that is never good. Be grateful that she was in your life. Be tolerant with you. Cry if you need to. Talk about it until you understand that there's something better out there for you. Think about your kids, family. Remember that if you are okay, everyone else will be okay too. I have this super strict rule where I refuse to compete with other women for a man. If a guy is choosing between me and another woman, I'd walk away and not give him another thought. My ex decided to get back with his ex. The coward didn't have the balls to tell me, instead tried instigating fights so that he could call me crazy and dump me. I'm a very logical sort of person, so his plans never worked. Eventually he sent me her nudes and told me via text he was leaving me for her and that I was a so and so. I said goodbye and good luck. 6 months later they buy a house together. A month after he comes back to me, telling me he's been single all this time and can't stop thinking about me. I said goodbye and good luck. 2 years later he marries her. A couple of months after he comes back to me, not mentioning his marriage until I brought it up and said he's separated from her. Tells me he can't stop thinking about me. I said goodbye and good luck. A year later he's still married to her, but messages me saying he can't stop thinking about me. This time I delete his messages without responding. A couple of years later he has a baby with her, but sent me messages saying hey. I blocked his number. I joined a roller derby league after finding a list comparing me to the woman he was cheating with. Found the note 3 weeks after suddenly losing my dad in a car accident when I was 25, so it was quite a shock. I had never played before and could barely skate. I didn't know a soul there and I was terrified, but soon came to fall in love with the body positive culture, supportive women, and physical challenges. It literally changed my life in so many wonderful ways. I lost weight, made new friends, gained confidence I never thought possible, and learned to process my grief and pain with exercise and camaraderie instead of overeating and isolating. I highly recommend finding a team sport or fitness groups when going through a difficult time. Hurt, time, clarity, screw that guy. I feel sad for him. Although he was a real love, and we had everything in common and amazing chemistry. Then he met someone at a work event in another city. Called me a week after they met to break up with me. I was devastated. He apologized in a series of long-winded phone calls and texts and told me how and why I wasn't enough for him, and she instantly was. I was a wreck for months and, stupidly, let him keep apologizing because I needed to understand. It took 2 to 3 months, but I started dating again. The hurt went away after 6 months, but I did keep picking the scab for a year because it fit into my internal narrative that I'm never good enough. So I worked on that, and that was useful and needed. Eventually I realized it was all about him and his insecurities and need for new, and had nothing to do with me. In fact, I saw quickly how lost blind I had been, and all of my confusion throughout our dating had been him keeping me at arm's length. It was a convenience ship for him and a relationship with a future for me. I look back and see how foolish I was, but also it helped clarify what I want and need from relationships with men and my relationship with myself when I'm in a couple. It was a lesson I needed. Now his name is banned, and he's just that F guy to me and my friends. But if I do ever think about him, I just feel sad for him if that's how he treats people. I do better by the people I care about and won't put up for less in any relationship ever again. I had my suspicions with my ex-husband and I asked him if he was seeing anyone else. He vehemently denied it until one day I grabbed his phone and his smart self had his ex-girlfriend as his screensaver. It took me finding that to have him tell me that he was indeed seeing her again. I never got back with him. I ended up getting into another relationship, having another child, and he tried to get me to come back to him. I divorced him after that betrayal. He ended up in prison eventually. Wow, that escalated quick lol. I was devastated. It felt like my present and my future were destroyed, and I was not in control. I got angry. So angry. But I needed to work through that anger to get to acceptance. It took a few years, though I'll be honest. But then I got to the point where I just didn't think about it or him anymore. It was freeing, and I realized that the best gift he gave me was leaving. The only thing you can do to deal with something like this is to ride it out. Feel the emotions, Be kind to yourself, be patient with yourself, and give yourself the time that you need. It's different for everyone. Yeah, it hurts, but you'll make it through. You've made it through everything else up to today. This is just a bit bigger thing than anything else, perhaps, but you'll make it through. Comment and subscribe.